The old rancher, Elijah Boone, had spent over 15 years living alone on the far edge of the Texas frontier. His days were silent but steady, just the wind through the canyons, the crackle of his campfire, and the memory of a wife he'd buried long ago. People said Boone was a ghost of the Old West, hard, quiet, and untouchable. But one cold evening in autumn, as he was chopping wood by the barn, he saw movement at the edge of the valley, 7 young Comanche girls, barefoot and shivering, walking toward him through the dust. At first, Boone thought it was a trick of the twilight. But when the girls got closer, he saw their faces, frightened, exhausted, and bruised from a long journey. The oldest, barely 16, spoke in broken English, explaining that their village had been destroyed by a raiding band, and they had nowhere to go. Boone, though cautious, felt something stir in his chest, a memory of the daughter he had lost years ago. Without another thought, he led them inside his cabin and lit the fire, giving them what food and blankets he had left. For days, the rancher nursed the girls back to health. He taught them how to milk the goats, mend fences, and cook simple meals. Laughter began to return to his lonely home, a sound Boone had forgotten. But deep down, he knew that sheltering them could bring trouble. Comanche warriors were known to be fiercely protective of their people, and Boone's land stood right between old tribal roots. Still, he couldn't send them away, not when they had nowhere else to go. One evening, as the sun dropped behind the red cliffs, Boone noticed a strange silence in the valley. The cattle were restless, the dogs wouldn't bark. Then he heard it, the faint rhythm of drums echoing from the hills. He climbed to the ridge with his rifle and froze. Below him, stretching across the plains like a wave of shadow, were hundreds of mounted warriors, 700 strong, painted and armed, circling his homestead like a storm. Boone's heart pounded. He told the girls to stay inside, then walked out into the open, his rifle slung low, hands raised. The warriors stopped at a distance, and from their ranks, an old chief rode forward, his face lined with age, his eyes sharp and burning. The girls rushed out crying, calling his name. The chief was their grandfather. For a long moment, there was only the wind between them. Boone bowed his head and said softly, "They were cold and hungry. I just gave them shelter." The chief dismounted and walked to Boone, placing his hand on the old man's shoulder. No words were needed. He turned and gave a signal, and the entire army dismounted. That night, instead of bloodshed, the valley filled with fires and singing. The warriors shared food and honored Boone as a man of great heart. When dawn came, they left peacefully, leaving behind gifts of leather, food, and a carved staff, a symbol of eternal friendship. For the rest of his days, Elijah Boone was no longer known as the lonely rancher of the West, but as the man who gave shelter to 7 lost daughters and earned the respect of 700 warriors.